Seems that alongside the 40k Combat Patrol rules that dropped today, Games Workshop has also lifted the lid on a new Combat Patrol box for the Necrons. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Necrons, and specifically focusing on the new Combat Patrol set that the robot skeletons in space seem to be getting in the not too distant future. Let's talk through the recent Necron kits that are going away, the contents of this new one, and how it might stack up in terms of a release and versus the old Combat Patrol. First up, the Necron armies do have some box sets either going already or going soon. In 9th edition, as being perhaps the title faction of the edition, they've had really quite a lot of discount options available. First up, they had the Indomitors box with the very good deal for Necron units that you could get inside that. Then that got replaced by all the 9th edition starter sets, things like the Recruit box set and this Elite starter set here, with Scorpec Destroyers, the Overlord, and the Necron Warriors in it. These ones, as I was guessing, do seem to have been taken down by Games Workshop for the most part. They might still be there in a bunch of independent stockists and things, but supply of those is going to be dwindling, and if Games Workshop sticks to their current patterns, there's probably going to be some Space Marines versus Tyranid boxes released, I guess at their normal 3-level offering for Recruit, Elite and Command type things, so there's different ways that you can very easily get into Warhammer 40k at different sort of commitment levels. It's kind of interesting that alongside these box sets disappearing, also the 9th edition Necrons Combat Patrol set has basically gone away as well. This one wasn't released on the drop with the Necron Codex, but followed up around about mid-9th edition. That's the one with the Night Scythe, the Death Marks and Immortals. With that one being removed, it was pretty much guaranteed that Necrons would be getting a new Combat Patrol set at some point, and whether or not we get it sooner or later is a bit more of a question though. The new Necron Codex is apparently coming out in winter. There's at least a reasonable chance that a Combat Patrol might not make its appearance before then. Just for context, here's the 9th edition Necron Combat Patrol. This is what's being replaced. The Necron Overlord, and then 10 Immortals that you can also build as Death Marks, 3 Tomb Blades, and 1 Night Scythe that you could also build as a Doom Scythe. This was taken offline with Games Workshop's web store not so very long ago, seemingly being replaced for the new edition. I have seen a bunch of people speculating as to this partly being due to the Combat Patrol rules for the new edition, perhaps people thinking that a flyer wouldn't work very well alongside the new game mode there. I'm honestly a bit skeptical as to this actually being a reason for them to update a box set. Seems like they managed to cater for the rest of the Combat Patrol sets absolutely fine, even things like Custodians that had far too many points of models in. As I managed to miss in the last video, they actually have the option to trade out their Virtus Praetors for Custodian Guard within their Combat Patrol rules, so Games Workshop still manages to make a Combat Patrol set work for them. I feel like they still could have made a Night Scythe work probably. Perhaps just give it the hover keyword and say that it has to use that. I feel like it probably wouldn't have been the most out there thing in terms of other combat patrols. Might have been kind of hard to deal with for some armies, but that's the case for most of the vehicles, and it's not like it does the most damage compared with some other units. My guess is that the motivation for replacing it is probably the retiring of the 9th edition starter sets, and it perhaps seems to be how Games Workshop is deciding to repackage those. Talking of which, getting onto the new one, we know the contents of it from this new Combat Patrol rule set for Necrons. This one's called a Monotex Guard, and it gives you a Necron Overlord, Necron Warriors, Scorpec Destroyers, Canoptex Scarab Swarms, and also a Doomstalker. It's alongside the rule set that has the current Combat Patrol box sets for all the other factions in 40k right now. The only other ones that appear to have been changed like this are the Space Marines and the Tyranid ones, which Games Workshop did preview they would have new combat patrols coming that are made out of the Leviathan miniatures. The Tyranids have that Psychophage, the Space Marines have the Terminators and the Terminator characters, plus that small squad of Infernus Marines. Alongside the removal of all the other Necron value kits, it really does heavily imply that this is going to be the new Combat Patrol box set for Necrons, so basically the contents of the Elite Starter set plus a Doomstalker. Here's just another picture, perhaps a slightly better one out of the box set. You get the Overlord from Indomitus, 10 Necron Warriors and the 3 Scarab Swarms that come on their same sprue, 3 Scorpec Destroyers and 1 Doomstalker. The only major wargear choice that the miniatures have is either to take the Gauss Flares or Reapers. Weirdly enough, the Combat Patrol has them fielded with a mix of Flares and Reapers, which I feel is rarely going to be an optimal case for Necrons. I suppose it just goes with matching the box art of the miniatures as you can see them, as seems to be the case for a bunch of other armies. Points cost wise, it doesn't really seem to be too bad for Combat Patrols. Classically, they've tended to be around about the 500 point mark. This does indeed come fairly close to that, 480 points including all the squads. Certainly not the most points intensive out of all of the Combat Patrols, but not the least either. In terms of pricing for miniatures though, I feel like the Necrons seem to be a little bit lower than some of the other Combat Patrols out there. If you bought these miniatures separately, not even going by the Recruit box set or anything like that, and subbing in the cost of the Overlord for the generic one that you can get outside this plastic kit. You'd usually expect these miniatures from Games Workshop to cost somewhere in the region of £116, just over $190, and around about €150. And it does mean that if they stick with the current box prices for combat patrols at £95, €125, or $160, this would be really quite a poor discount by Games Workshop standards, only around about 18%. I think that would add up to the very lowest out of combat patrol discounts that we'd get so far. I think it's even slightly lower than the Grey Knights, which don't get much of a discount themselves. I feel like this one might be a bit of a feels bad, seeing as these units were available very cheaply in 9th edition. You'd basically have been able to get all of these miniatures plus the Doomstalker for around about the same price as the Combat Patrol, and that gets you a whole load of free Space Marines thrown in as well. As a result, I think that the cost set of the box set will be kind of interesting. Hopefully this might be a bit lower than usual due to the actual miniatures that are involved. It does seem that we might be seeing a bit of a shift with Combat Patrol valuation going into 10th edition 40k. It does look like the Space Marine box set in particular would be kind of similar to this, really quite low value worth of money of models included in the box, and again discounts will be absolutely tiny unless they charge less for it. I feel like quite a nice outcome would be that we find out that Games Workshop's actually dropping the price of combat patrols that are released in 10th, a few less miniatures in the box, but also costing less as well, so the discount is still preserved. I guess we'll wait and see on that front though. I feel like while it wouldn't be terrible as a deal, I feel like £95 or $160 still wouldn't be outstanding for the miniatures here, not compared with the ones of at least a few other factions. Overall though, as box sets go, I don't think it's the worst news for Necrons. I think it's a nice enough mix of recent units, some battle line troops, some elites and a heavy hitter alongside some screening scarabs, plus a leader for the box. I think it is helpful that they're still going to be easy to access like this, as say some of the Space Marines from the Dark Imperium box set did when that one went away. All the miniatures are fairly straightforward to put together, fairly simple and easy build, and it's quite nice there will be an option to get them still discounted even when the 9th edition starter sets go away. I guess if you already had the Elite starter sets, then you could make the Necron Combat Patrol just with the addition of a Doomstalker, which is kind of nice. But I must admit, in terms of discount for Necrons, it is in a bit more of a shaky place. Kind of sad to lose the option of things like discounted Immortals, Death Marks, Scythes and Tomb Blades. Plus I feel like compared with the Elite box set, I suspect this is going to add up to a bit less of a good deal overall, at least once you've factored in the Space Marines. Let me know your thoughts though. Hopefully Games Workshop will release this at a price that's very tempting to Necron collectors. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, or you just like to help support, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and that's linked down in the video description below. Channel Patreons are what allow me to keep on making videos quite this regularly, so if you are enjoying a lot, any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.